We're going to actually continue a little bit more with business, and this is the story that we've just been covering a little bit earlier in that business bulletin with regards to Steinhoff, of course, and the Ibex Group, which of course was formerly Steinhoff, has finally given up the fight to prevent the publishing of the full 7,000-page report on the fraud that brought the company to its knees and cost pension funds billions of rand. Now, today, the report is expected to become public after media house Arena Holdings, which was then DSO Blackstar, and amaBhungane Center for Investigative Journalism took the company to court, demanding the release of the report. Rob Rose is a journalist and author of Steinheist, as well as The Grand Scam, and joins us now to get a little bit more detail on this. Rob, you've unpacked this one for many years now. You've been on this story for so long that there must be a sense of, well, finally, with regards to the report being made public sooner rather than later now.
Yeah, Arabella, good to speak to you. So the report will be coming to us, to the people who applied for this to get the report, which is amaBhungane, Financial Mail, and we were involved in this. I mean, the thing is that there's 7,000 pages to really get into that is expected to really kind of elaborate on how the scam happened. I mean, Arabella, it's 106 billion rand in fictitious transactions over more than a decade. So you can imagine it's incredibly complicated. So this report was done, 300 people testified in front of the forensic investigators. So it's going to be quite long and detailed.
Yeah, it being long and detailed means ultimately the details of this may not necessarily be born even within the first week, maybe even month of getting all of this detail. Does that mean, however, that we are nearing what feels like the end of understanding exactly what happened?
I certainly think so. I mean, what actually happened is contained fairly conclusively, I'd imagine, in this report. I mean, it explains exactly how money was shifted between these fake overseas companies, which is what Marcus Jooste, the former CEO of Steinhoff, did. In Marcus Jooste, who committed suicide in March and ultimately is not going to face trial for this. But I think the deeper issue is why he did it and why he got a group of senior executives to collaborate with him in doing this. I mean, that's something that I don't think the forensic report will detail. But certainly the mechanics of how the fraud happened and how the regulators were deceived and how various people down the supply chain, like the auditors, were deceived. And that'll certainly be instructive for future cases like this, future frauds, understanding what holes we have in our regulatory system that need to be closed.
Yeah, and I was about to say, because that just feels like it's going to be a more technical issue with regards to ensuring this doesn't sort of happen again, really. Is there any further recourse, ultimately, for those that have lost the billions with regards to this? With this report ultimately coming out, would that create the greater liability for those that are involved and perhaps more recourse for those that had been affected?
I certainly think it could. I think the details of this report could expose people to liability that people might not have known about until now. In terms of actual recourse, there's also the situation where you have a couple of criminal trials going on at the same time. Stian Frobler, the former company secretary, is now on trial in this particular case. So I think that, there is the criminal justice case, which will be happening in the courts, over the next year or so. And I think that there'll be more detail in that too. Certainly people want to feel like there was some kind of accountability for what happened, which is why Marcus Jooste's suicide in March was, I think, left people feeling that chance for real justice and to find out why this happened has somewhat been lost with what happened.
Let me just get a final sense from you, Rob, sorry, should I say, about what exactly you think gets learned out of all of this for South Africa, whether it be from the commercial and financial sector overall, and just how things are ultimately done and perpetrated and shown by, whether it be audit firms, etc. as well, and just how South Africa could ultimately learn from this.
Yeah, Arabella, I mean, this was one of our largest companies. This was a company that grew from a small retailer based in Wynberg in Johannesburg and became the second largest furniture retailer in Europe behind IKEA. This became a global success story, Steinhoff, one of our largest companies, and almost every pension fund in the country was invested in this. They all wanted a piece of Steinhoff's success. And then ultimately it proved to be quite illusory because this was built upon a really spectacular lie. So I think what we need to learn is how our boards of directors are not operating efficiently sometimes, not optimally. I think we've had a number of scandals over the last 10 years that aren't just Steinhoff. We've had Tongaat Hewlett, EOH, and a few others that illustrate that the boards of directors perhaps need to be bolstered in some really specific ways. And then obviously, as you mentioned, the auditors, this is a case where you had this massive fraud and the accounts were wrong for a very long time. So I think it really casts the focus back on our regulators. We were quite smug about South Africa being one of the best corporate environments in the world. And then we had this series of disasters from 2017, 2018, 2019. And I think it really made us feel that we weren't first amongst equals as South Africa's like to think of itself amongst emerging markets. It was very much of a kind.
Certainly a very interesting story and hopefully one that does seem to be getting towards its tail end as well. Rob, appreciate the time here on Newzroom Afrika. Rob Rose, journalist, author of Steinheist as well as The Grand Scam. A lot more detail then coming to the fore then when it comes to Steinhoff as it currently stands.